Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, everyone, it is hard to believe, but 2022 is upon us, and you know what that means. Time to look straight past the midterms towards that 2024 presidential race. I'm actually serious here. Jockeying and plotting, they have already started, and all of the maneuvering will be supercharged by what a manifestly weak president Joe Biden has certainly turned out to be. Now, on the Republican side, there's only one real question. Will Trump run again? If he does, he's going to be the nominee. And who knows what that dude is going to do, but it seems more likely than not that he will try to reclaim the White House. After all, he's around throwing his weight around in the party, making endorsements, ramping up his media appearances, setting up his cringy social media company, etc. On the Democratic side, with an incumbent president, there should be little to nothing interesting happening, but instead, there's actually a lot more intrigue on the Democratic side than with the GOP. Biden is a terrible president, and he is also extremely old. And while he does insist that he plans on running again, literally no one in D.C. is confident that that is actually going to happen. Now, if Biden steps aside, his vice president would be the obvious successor, but Kamala Harris is even less popular than Joe Biden somehow. That has caused the donor class to start plotting in secret meetings how they could push Mayor Pete ahead of Kamala in line. It's an amusing soap opera that I will certainly track with popcorn in hand, but from my perspective, it couldn't possibly matter less which careerist corporate tool destined to lose they decide to prop up. But there is a new possibility taking shape that's a bit more intriguing. The left, disgusted with the lies, broken promises, and sheer incompetence of the Biden presidency, are considering putting up a primary challenger of their own against him in the Democratic primary. Not the progressives here in elected office in D.C., they've sadly been largely neutered, but someone outside of elected office, Nina Turner, Marianne Williamson have both been named. They have the potential to step up. Politico has that report. Quote, "The left is already looking to 2024. Some want to see a Biden primary challenge. Quote, will there be a progressive challenger? Yes, said one prominent Democrat." Now, the quote in the article subhead there comes courtesy of former Bernie campaign manager Jeff Weaver. Other strategists from the Bernie left voiced similar sentiments. AOC's former comms director Corbin Trent had this to say of Biden. "He is deeply unpopular. He's old as shit. He's largely been ineffective, unless we're counting judges or whatever the hell inside baseball scorecard we're using. And I think he'll probably get demolished in the midterms. People will smell opportunity, and D.C. is filled with people who want to be president." So what are the odds that such a challenge could succeed? Pretty much zero. Close to zero. Bernie Sanders is the best politician the left has had in decades, and he wasn't able to get the job done against Biden when it was a wide open field. The odds of taking out an incumbent of your own party are very, very small. But very small, close to zero, is still better than absolute zero, and if you don't try, defeat is certain. Look, you never know what craziness might unfold. First of all, Biden may well not run, or may not live to see the next election. And second of all, if anything was going to turn our politics upside down and inside out, it is the last couple of years that we have just lived through. We've dealt with a once-in-a-century pandemic in which trillions of dollars of wealth were funneled to the top of society, while the working class was given a little pat on the head, told they were special essential workers, and sent back out there to generate more profits for Mr. Bezos. And what's more, we face a dire reality right now. The country desperately needs to be rescued. It needs to be rescued from the Trump Republicans, but it needs almost as urgently to be rescued from the Biden-Pelosi Democrats. I am 100% behind any effort with even a tiny, minuscule chance of accomplishing that goal. Obviously, a rising labor movement is one really critical part of that. But electoral politics, that's another critical piece. Because it sure seems like we are at a tipping point of catastrophe on basically every front. You might say we're at a breaking point. Destabilizing inequality has accelerated dramatically as wealth by the trillions poured into the bank accounts of the wealthiest among us while Congress handed out comparative pennies to the broader public. Whatever you think about the fairness of the situation, history is littered with examples of societies which collapse and revolutions that are sparked when the public rejects the basic distribution of wealth and sees through whatever bullshit rationalizations the ruling class dreams up to justify their grotesque largesse. Government capture by moneyed interests has reached extreme levels as well, as evidenced by the fact that the one really transformative bill that has passed under Trump or Biden was a giant corporate tax cut. In the Biden era, corporate America has been able to absolutely run the table. They cherry-picked only the business-friendly infrastructure deal and killed off the broader social and climate agenda altogether. Meanwhile, many of our legislators are brazenly on the take. Pelosi recently scoffed at the idea that they should not be gambling in the stock market while also legislating with access to inside information. She then proceeded to make some big trades over the holiday break, buying millions in call options in companies like Google, Roblox, and Disney. Thanks to our friend Unusual Whales for tracking that one. Of course, the climate crisis continues unabated. This holiday season brought with it more horrifying records and shocking weather extremes. Tornadoes ripped across the Midwest in a way that has literally never happened before in December. The previous record high number of tornadoes for the month was shattered by the 163 tracked in December this year. Suburban Colorado faced down an urban firestorm that forced shoppers to flee a Costco under apocalyptic skies of gusting winds and swirling embers. Let's look at that. It's insane. Here in DC, we were setting records that were actually kind of nice if they were a bit unsettling. We had a bunch of 70-degree days as we basked in the second warmest December ever recorded. And then the temperature abruptly dropped 30 degrees in one day, and this morning it snowed. And look, with the anniversary of January 6th looming, we gotta admit, the whole democratic experiment we're engaged in here, it's kind of on life support, folks. Increasing numbers of people trust no one, believe nothing, and have fallen into complete nihilism. Or on the other hand, they fall prey to phony saviors and rigid ideologies that see the world in dangerous binaries of good versus evil. That is the logical end state of a nation with no organizing values outside of money and outside of profit. So, of course, faced with the primary challenge, establishment Democrats will try to argue that any threat to their control of the Democratic Party amounts to an existential threat to the nation. Sure, they've done nothing but allow conditions to ripen for the return of Trump or something worse, but they'll still claim that they are the only ones standing between America and the abyss. They'll insist that any dissent within the party will inevitably lead to fascism, that any honest critics must actually be doing the work of Putin or Trump or white nationalists. But we can't be afraid of more democracy. In fact, it is the only thing, both in the workplace and in the nation at large, with even a sliver of a chance of saving us. I hope that someone courageous and uncompromising steps up, not for some phony notion of pressuring Biden or pushing Biden on this or that issue, but to take their best shot to actually win. As a long shot, at this point, it's the only shot that we've got. And Sagar, at the very least, these people deserve to be challenged in a way that is not. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it, you get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.